about yourself and your energy recovery, or that you discussed with the people in your room?
I'd love to go, Aisha.
Thank you, Elisa.
And thank you so much for this opportunity. There's a lot that I personally didn't even pay attention to. I was just going on my daily tasks as if it's normal. But my counterpart, Odumelo, made me realize that I have not been taking my water. And she gave me tips on how to do it. And for me, it's practical and it makes sense. And I don't know how we got to be paired, because we are like we have the same, what do I call it? We have the same spiritual understanding. Amazing. And she just poured in me as much as I poured into her. Amazing. And the conversation for me just made me realize that there's changes that I need to make in my life as soon as possible, actually, if I need to get my mental state and get my energies in the correct path, or in the correct wavelength. So that's all I can say now. So my physical aspect is really, I realize that my physical energy is really undersourced right now, and I will make a plan around it as of today. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Aisha.
It's not difficult to drink water, and yet we are, depending on the stat you look at, we're about 90% water, and we really need to look after our water. We don't get headaches, we can replenish, our brains can work properly, and that's really good. Thank you, Nelisa, for that feedback. Is there one more person who'd like to give feedback before we move on? Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Oh, okay, who's that? I hear somebody. Please speak.
Okay, now it's me. Can I go?
Go for it. Go for it.
Okay, thank you. Thanks so much, Aisha. Yeah, maybe you guys need to give us a trick on how you pet us, because coincidentally, we almost had the similar problems. In my group, ours was mentally, to answer number one, overburden. We all had medical issues. In September, I had a surgery, and even one in my group had a surgery. The other one was in labor. Wow. So all of us, we had that medical conditions where we had to go through a lot of stress, emotionally affected, and now we are trying to recover by counseling, attending the counseling and so forth. So yeah, almost amazing. The same. Yeah, that's all I can say. Yes.
Thank you. And that is brilliant, right? Get the support when you need it, because even Roger Federer, who's one of possibly the greatest player of all times, he has a massive team. Anybody who succeeds and moves up has a massive team of people supporting them. Psychologists, trainers, the works, family. That's what we need around us. So thank you for raising that point. Thank you so much. So to recap about performance, stress is not the bad guy. The absence of recovering your petrol tank is the issue. Growth is stress done consciously, so you can only grow under stress. Balancing energy expenditure with energy recovery is important. Look at your 4 sources of energy and optimize how you use all of these energy sources. So thank you for your work there. Another thing I want to look at today is about our mental attitudes, our optimism. Optimism can be defined as an attitude of reflecting a belief or a hope that the outcome of your endeavors will be positive, favorable, and what you want. Okay, so the opposite of optimism is pessimism. And here is a little bit of an exercise for you to look at, okay? I want you to sit by yourself now and maybe jot a few points down in questioning your limiting beliefs. So often what happens is that the way we frame things, how we see our world, determines the outcome that we have. It's not that we haven't studied enough. It's not that we haven't done a whole lot of things right, but we just don't believe that it can happen. What belief or fear do you hold that makes passing this exam difficult? And how is your fear limiting you? Take a few seconds to think about that. What is a more powerful belief or mindset that you could choose for yourself? So besides the fear that you have now, what would you rather believe than have the fear? What would become possible with this new belief that you have? I want you all to look at this, because what is important is that in changing outcomes, we actually need to influence our perspective. So there's a model that goes observer plus actions equals results. And what it means is that what we usually do is we focus on trying to change our actions, but shifting your observer or your perspective influences your actions, okay, and how you get results. Sorry, is somebody speaking? Does somebody want to answer a question, ask a question? All right. Okay. So I just wanted you to ponder this. Is there some underlying belief that's limiting your belief around whether you can pass this exam or not? Identify that limiting belief and frame for yourself what could be an enabling belief. Some of us are born optimistic and some of us aren't. And either way is not good or bad. If we are too optimistic, what happens is that we cannot see negative things when they are coming our way. When we are too pessimistic or realistic or practical, as people like to say, what we cannot see is possibility of ourselves getting what we want. So there is this concept called learned optimism. Our thoughts frame our world, and it's normal. We can see the world through our own lens, but being aware of the bias of how we see the world is important so that we can see it without a distortion. There's a model here that I'm showing you that's referenced in Sheryl Sandberg's option B, and it's called the 3 Ps and the 3 S's. And it's a lens for a difficult situation. So what you do now, you can apply the 3 lenses to your exam situation, right? When you're looking at the 3 Ps, you look at your difficult situation like this. When something bad happens and you're pessimistic, you would explain it as it's personal, it's pervasive, and it's permanent. So personal means you think it's your fault. Pervasive means, oh my goodness, I do this with everything. And permanent means it will always be this way. And when we have a pessimistic mindset, this is how we tend to look at things. It's personal, it's pervasive, and it's permanent. On the other hand, a less distorted view would be like this. When something bad happens, take the view of the 3 S's. This is situational. And you figure out what it's got to do with you, what's in your control, and what's out of your control. It's not pervasive, it's specific. So is it just this once? Or is it something I've repeated? And that it's not permanent, it's short-lived, that things will go back to normal tomorrow. So I just wanted you to have a bit of a view of this model. It might help you, that you don't need to fall in the pessimistic side, and that you can start to think more factually and more specifically about things through the 3 S's. Okay. Last but not least, I wanted to give you a little bit on rebalancing. So even if we get things right most of the time, oftentimes in situations what happens is that we have a balance and then we go out of balance. And a lot of life is about trying to maintain and find, even if you found it, trying to maintain balance. So rebalancing looks like this. When things don't go our way, everybody usually has one of 3 responses when we look at it. The first response that people can have is competence. What you want to do is you want to work harder, you want to know more, you want to do more, you want to fix it. That's some of us. When things go wrong, that's what we want to do. For others of us, our first reaction when things don't go well is that we have an overwhelming emotional response to what's going on. And this is called emotional realness. That emotional response could be anger, it could be fear, it could be sadness, it could be overwhelm, it could be lots of things. But that is the first thing that we need to deal with. The other thing that we could respond with in a situation when things don't go our way is that we could have a positive outlook. We could reframe things and we could say, oh, well, I didn't want to be that anyway, so it's just as well I didn't pass the exam. You could take an extreme positive outlook and reframe what's happening. The truth is that while we usually have one or even sometimes two of an overwhelming response of either wanting to be competent or wanting to be emotionally real or wanting to have a positive outlook when things don't go our way, as human beings, we need to do all three. So if you are having an emotionally real reaction to not having something go your way, what you need to do is think about what else could I do? How could I be more competent? And how could I have a more positive outlook through learned optimism, like we spoke about earlier? If something goes wrong and all you normally do is put your head down and work harder, what you could balance that out with and give yourself, because sometimes there's just nothing more you can do, is that you can go with competence into things, but you should also acknowledge your feelings if you've been suppressing it. You should also take a more positive outlook and develop, as we did earlier, learned optimism. If there's anything you want to write in the chat about what your normal response is, or the fact that you could use maybe one of the other two types of responses a bit more optimally so that you can balance out your full response, the truth is that to find balance, we need to do all three. We need to have proper competence, we need to have proper emotional realness, and we need to have a positive outlook. So in building resilience, not just for today and your prep for the exam, not just on the exam day, but for the rest of your careers, managing your energy improves the quality of the time you spend, where you can't have any more time. Time is finite. Balance your centers or your sources of energy. Do some diagnosis, do some analysis, and see whether it's your head, your heart, or your body that needs looking after. Do you need an optimistic mindset and a positive outlook? Does your heart need more belief, purpose, and courage and emotional realness? Does your body need more rest, movement, nutrition or hydration, meditation or prayer, or study to improve your competence? On the day, it's more of the same, and you've had two very able speakers, Polo and Mohomotsi, speaking to you about the day and what's going to happen. Have an exam strategy, whatever that may be. Focus on good exam technique and whatever that means for you. Envision your success and think positively. The basics, plan logistics. Prepare your resources as needed. Time in traffic, stationery, spare pens, petrol in the car, pack your bag ahead of time so that there is no stress in getting to your exam seat. That happens to us too. It's happened to me many times. And be comfortable in your skin. Sleep, meditate or pray, eat well, hydrate, and have the appropriate clothing with you so that you're comfortable on the day. And from me, that's it. If there are any questions that anybody would like to ask or any comments you'd like to make, you can either pop them in the chat or you can put your hand up and ask them. What remains from my side to say is good luck to all of you.
Thank you, Aisha. That was very insightful. And I think the breaking up into groups is also very helpful to let people share their experiences and share their thoughts and hear the thoughts of others. I'll give it a few minutes for questions, whether you raise your hand or type in the chat. And then if nothing, we'll close off.
Okay, Kanye, it seems like everybody's happy. It seems like everybody has done enough thinking for today. So I'll hand over back to you. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Thank you so much, Aisha. Thank you for joining us today and giving everybody insights and tips on how to get through the day, how to prepare, and how to stay in balance. I think we've had a very packed day with lots of speakers, lots of people to hear from, and a few key things I'd like to highlight from what I've picked up. Obviously, we've all picked up different things. Is that the preparation is vitally important. It's vitally important that you work effectively with your groups, that your research is effective and it's relevant. And on the actual day, you need to apply. Do not copy and paste. Do not assume what the question will ask. Read what is required and respond. Pretend you are at work, you are doing, this is your job, and your boss is going to is expecting a competent response from you. And also that you need to trust yourself, right? As much as you'll be working in groups, you need to be able to, when you go into the exam on the day, have a conclusion, well, as far as you can of your pre-prepared responses. Have a conclusion that you can support, that you believe in, and that you can justify appropriately. Again, do not copy and paste just in case the question changes, but have a view that you believe in and not just an adopted view. And of course, demand more from yourself, demand more from yourself, hold yourself accountable, and continue to believe that you can do this. And of course, as Aisha said, work on your senses. Figure out which one is off balance, if any, and figure out how to get back in balance. So if on the day you start to feel a bit anxious or you start to feel a bit uneasy, do a mini diagnosis. Have you had water? Have you eaten? Have you stretched? Have you missed something on the day that could help you do better for the remainder of the time? But thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you to Endunamo for running a number of sessions from the last few days, as well as the pre-recorded sessions. We wish you all the very best of luck for the upcoming session. With regards to the question that I posted in the chat, I will post her responses. I just did not want to distract Aisha during her session, so I'll post her responses just now. And just a closing remark from Abasa. If you guys would like to join us and become members, you are always welcome. I will post a link in the chat as well for you guys that you guys can use to become members. We look forward to having you and organizing amazing initiatives with your assistance. Thank you all very much and have a good weekend.